You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. The Bulls won 2 games and then they lost one because they seem to win and then they lose, and it just makes for a weird dynamic in the year. And we're going to get into all of that roller coaster type aspect, the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, maybe. We're going to talk about it all on today's episode of Believe in Bulls here on the Believe Network, presented by betonline.ag. I am your host, Nick Schultz. It's great to be back with you after the Thanksgiving holiday. Hope everybody had a great turkey day, and I know I ate too much, and I'm not ashamed of it. It's a guilt-free environment. So, CJ, how was your holiday, man?
That was great, man. Just spent time with family, watched some football, basketball, ate food and ate some leftovers. So, it's all good.
That's the best part of the day. I did not properly introduce you. This is former Bulls bench mob member and a Tennessee Vol, CJ Watson, right. By the way. I got to get that right. We didn't do a show last Friday. I'm off my game here. We got to get back on track. Like the Bulls got to get back on track. Yeah, Bulls got to get back on track after that Thunder game. I got to get back on track here. I should have had another cup of coffee. I know I should have. But we're rocking and rolling because we got a lot of directions we can go on the show today. But before we do, had to tell you about our friends at BetOnline. Basketball is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup information, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. It's always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, even golf. If you want to bet on CJ's Volunteers in college basketball as well, I wouldn't bet on my Ramblers right now. They're struggling. You can do that at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. It's BLEAV. Get that 50% bonus at BetOnline. It's where the game starts. And shop.believe.com is a great place to get some Believe gear. We've got an official shirt of this show. Jordan Pippen 98, The Last Dance, available exclusively at shop.believe.com. The guys are doing great work over there. Could make a great Christmas present as well, because we are into the holiday season officially. Thanksgiving's done. We're into Christmas time. You can go over to shop.believe.com and get some great stuff there and support the show with the Jordan Pippen 98 The Last Dance t-shirt. Bulls 2-1 over the last week, because again, we did not do a show on Friday because of the holiday. And it would have been a really fun show because they beat the Celtics and the Bucks. They beat the Celtics 121-107. Beat the Bucks in Milwaukee, by the way, 118-113. Think they're riding high. It's going really well. And then they lose to the Thunder 123-119. That one hurt. The Thunder aren't a bad team. They've got some good young players, but man, just when you thought they were going to maybe turn this corner, get on a win streak, that happened. So what's kind of your reaction to that last 3 games, CJ?
I thought they played well. It just shows that with those first 2 wins, they have enough to win. Like, we always complain, or not complain, we just talk about how what they need to what they need to do more. But it just shows you they have enough to win in the NBA, and to be 2 good, really good teams, especially one at home and one on the road. It just shows, like I said, it just shows you what they have. They have enough to win, and also just going to OKC. OKC is a really good team, especially at home. A lot of young talent, a lot of young energy. So it doesn't upset me that they lost. I think they played a close game, a tough game, and just kind of the things we always talk about, closing out on the stretch, down the stretch, making the crucial plays and clutch plays.
Yeah, Oklahoma City, that is a talented young roster. I don't think they're not going to be like title contenders this year, I don't think. But they're still that's a good young group. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can torch you. You've called him an all-star caliber player. He showed that against the Bulls the other night. So I think that game, that's not a bad loss necessarily, especially because it's on the road. You always say it's tough to win on the road in the NBA, and especially when you're playing against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey. If you don't bring your A game on defense, those guys are going to torch you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just like you said, it's hard to win in the NBA, and just trying to be consistent. I think that's what the Bulls have to do, just be consistent, get a couple wins in a row, and just trying to start that streak and trying to turn the tide, like you said.
And we can't call the Thunder a bad team because they got the same record as the Bulls, who we think are a solid team. So The Thunder are a good team. If anyone's calling the Thunder a bad team, they're not putting enough respect on that team's name. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 30 points in that one. Josh Giddey kind of came in late in the game. I feel like he kind of came into his own. He had 10 points on the day, but I feel like he does more off the ball too. But let's go to the wins. Over Boston, over Milwaukee. Last year, they had 1 win against top teams in the East, by the way. The Bulls did. Now you've beaten Boston twice. That's half their losses, I think. At least at the time, that was half of their losses were to the Bulls. You beat Milwaukee on the road, and let's not forget, they beat the Heat in the season opener. So this narrative now that the Bulls can't beat good teams, to me, it's time to put this to bed.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think the bench has a lot to do with it. Kobe White coming back, knocking down some big 3-point shots, 3-point shooting, definitely what the Bulls need. And just him coming back, a lot of the guys on the bench just bringing energy, bringing consistency, like we've been, pleading for. I think it's a big boost to their confidence.
Yeah, we've been talking about the need for 3-point shooters. They got one back in Kobe White, and he hit some big shots against Boston. He hit some big shots against the Bucks. Giannis looked like he was going to do some Giannis things there. That's what I always say. Giannis he is unguardable, in my opinion. When you've got a small team like the Bulls have, Stacey King always says it's the land of the little people. It's Gulliver's Travels. Like that's what Giannis is. When you're going against a smaller Bulls team, he looked like he was going to take over, but he had to be careful. He had 5 fouls, and that to me kind of helped. Okay, the Bulls are going to be more aggressive, go at him. Maybe on defense, maybe try and draw an offensive foul. If he lowers that shoulder, draw a charge. So I think they did everything right to win those games. To me, those have the longer term effects than the Thunder game. Because the Thunder game is just game 2 of a road trip, and you're going to win some, you're going to lose some.
Yeah, I think those 2 wins are definitely needed for their confidence. Like I said, it just shows them that they know they can win in this league and they can beat the best teams, especially in the East. Is definitely tough this year. And OKC game, I think is just a game where maybe road game, not getting used to things, and I think just maybe trying to turn that tide, maybe putting too much pressure on them. I don't know. It's just they still got to get it done, I think, though, in the end.
I do wish they would have won that game because the Billy Donovan connection to the Thunder. Like to me, that's always a fun little like revenge game type of scenario where Billy Donovan can get the best of his old team, but like you said, they're young, they're scrappy. The defense on this team, you always say defense travels. I tweeted that at you during that Bucks game. The defense travels, and you saw that the defense played well against Milwaukee. But it's all about that perimeter defense. That's where guys like Shea and Giddey can get you, and that's just something we can start talking trade deadline soon. You're 19 games in, which we're going to bring up that 19 games in number in a second because we got some stuff to talk about expectations wise. But I'm not ready to talk about the 3-and-D guy. I think is the absolute number 1 need at the trade deadline, no matter what. I know it's just after Thanksgiving, but I think they definitely need to do that at the trade deadline if they can.
Yeah, I think defense is a big thing, trying to shore up that defense, trying to get a stand in, because every night you're going to face a tough perimeter player, maybe even 2 or 3. So got to try to shut those guys down and just have a better mentality defensively. Just like I said, just looking yourself in the mirror and trying to say, what can I do better to help this team defensively and then also offensively. So I think once they do that and just everyone just take on the challenge of shutting the man down and then helping each other if someone gets beat.
Well, and that's what's making this a roller coaster year too. Like we talk about 2 great wins over Boston, Milwaukee, like great, things are going really well. And then Oklahoma City punches them in the mouth and they lose. And it feels like you're back to square one. Cause it feels like, and I've seen this on, the bloggers on Twitter, 2 steps forward, 1 steps back. Sometimes like that's what it kind of feels like. It's been a roller coaster to start the year. We've had good moments and bad moments that we've seen. So what do you think goes into the kind of up and down nature here?
Maybe just not the whole team being there consistently, guys in and out of the lineup. The bickering between your star player and the coach, things of that nature. That has a lot to do with the team effect. So I think it's a little bit of everything. But like I said, if they can just hone all those things down, just focus on the wins and losses, and more importantly, wins, and just trying to get the ship straight and win a couple games in a row, and then getting everybody back healthy.
And I feel like the Zach LaVine, Billy Donovan situation with the benching, I feel like Zach has responded well to that. And it seems like it's kind of in the rearview mirror. It could have just been post-game frustration. Zach seems like a team player. I've talked about it with him before. He's been through the lowest of lows with this team. So he knows what goes into it. And I feel like that could have been just post-game frustration. That seems in the rearview mirror now. That's a good thing. But consistency is the key word. That's the name of the game.
Yeah. And that's what you want from your star player. You want him to take ownership of, maybe failing and succeeding. But him responding that way and having a big game and having another big game after that is just, a testament of his competitiveness and how he wants to win, how he wants to play, and he wants to be the best player on this team. And I think, he has every right to be.
Well, I talked about it after the benching happened because Jim Boylan, the last guy, I keep saying his name, I'm evoking his name, but, he benched LaVine. It was early in the first half. And it was early. He sat Zach and he didn't play much in the first half. And then Zach came out and won the game in Charlotte. I remember that was when I was interning at NBC Sports Chicago. One of my favorite stories from working there is watching that game in the newsroom. And in the green room, I hear the Bulls Outsiders guys. There's a name, all the guys who did the Bulls Outsiders, they were the fan post game show. They went ballistic when Zach hit that game winner against Charlotte. Like that shows Zach LaVine. That's why you pay him the max contract. Because yes, sometimes he needs that little push to be like, hey, you got to be better. And then he responds to it. That's what it's all about. It's how you respond to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. You want your best players to respond well, and he did it in a positive way, like not going back and forth with the coach in the media continually. He said what he had to say, got off his chest. Maybe he shouldn't have said it, maybe he should have, but it just shows, like I said, the competitiveness and how bad he wants to win.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's about wanting to win, and that's the biggest thing with this team, because we can still talk about the shorthanded nature of this team. I'm tired of using Lonzo Ball as a crutch. I mean, I'm just going to be straight up and down. I'm tired of when Lonzo comes back. I have said this repeatedly on the show. We got to stop doing that, because this is the team you've got right now. And we've talked about the scenario if Lonzo can't come back. So if Lonzo doesn't come back, this is the team you've got. And yeah, they're 8-11 right now. It's the old, you are what your record says you are. They're 8-11 right now. They're struggling. But there's a story out there from the Ringer that dropped this morning, Monday morning, when we're recording this, and it caught my eye. I sent it to you. I'm like, we have to talk about this.
Right.
The headline is the Bulls are the NBA's most depressing team. Okay, disappointing, I would say. 8-11 is not where we thought they'd be. But then the writer, Michael Pina, I think it's Pina or Pina. There's no tilde above the N. So I think it's Michael Pina. He said it might be time to tank and blow this thing up. And that's where I say, this is where I tease the disclaimer of 19 games. You are not even 25% into this season. It is not time to talk about tanking with this team, because this was the same roster minus Lonzo that was number 1 seed in the East last year. Not ready to start tanking. I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely wouldn't start tanking at all. I'm not a big believer in tanking. I see signs of these guys still wanting to play hard, still wanting to win. Teams that tank, you can see, quitting throughout their posture, no team camaraderie, no slapping hands, no supporting one another. So I don't see that with the Bulls. I see them still wanting to win, still guys diving for loose balls, just wanting to win, like I said. And I think there's no reason to tank right now.
We talked about this before we started recording too. I remember a couple of years ago when Jimbo was there, I was talking about tanking because they needed to tank. Zion Williamson was the number 1 pick in that draft. I remember it vividly. And I was sitting here saying, you've got to tank. I don't care if you get the number 1 pick or not. You've got to tank. And then they naturally ended up with, I think, the 7th pick, because they always get the 7th pick. But that roster was not going to compete. I mean, that was early Zach LaVine. You had Lowry Markkanen. You had Chris. I think Chris Dunn was still there. It was before Kobe White got there. So we would have Dunn. It was bad. I mean, it was just a bad team. That's one of those teams. If you know you're not going to be competitive, okay, yeah. I always say, I make this analogy with the Bears. Just keep it close. Keep it close and lose, get the draft position. This team, you've got Zach LaVine, who's been a back-to-back All-Star. You got DeMar DeRozan, whose resume speaks for itself. You got a former All-Star in Nikola Vucevic. You got Alex Caruso, who plays really good defense. You got Goran Dragic and Andre Drummond, who are proving to be really good off the bench. You got Kobe White, who's a premier bench shooter. You've got the pieces here to be a really good team. Do not blow it up now, especially 19 games in. It's too early yet.
Yeah, it's way too early. It's a long season. Like I said, we're not even a quarter of the season yet, so it's a long way to go. And anything can happen, especially when you get your full roster, get them back healthy. Any momentum going into the All-Star break, going into the playoffs can, really turn the tide. And I think there's no reason to even start thinking about taking with the Bulls right now.
And I think it would be different if they'd have lost to Boston, if they'd have lost to Milwaukee, and then lost to Oklahoma City. Like, they're 8-11 now. You take that swing, that's 6-13. Then you start maybe worrying, because you're 7 games under 500. Now you're 3 games under 500. Yes, you've got a tough road trip coming up here. The schedule hasn't been friendly early on. We have talked at length about how unfriendly this schedule has been. To me, I think you've got to give it another month, maybe, if they're still on the outside looking into the play-in. Because right now, I said I wasn't going to look at the standings. I looked at the standings. They would be outside the play-in right now. But everybody's, it's all jam-packed when you get down there, so it doesn't really matter. But my point is, if you're outside the play-in tournament a month from now, then we might need to be having some conversations about, do they need to be sellers at the deadline? Right now, it is not the time to be talking about that.
Yeah, not at all. Like you said, it's just way too early. This team is on paper is still good enough. Even with the record that they have, they still have enough to win, and they showed you they're capable of beating good teams in the NBA. So there's no reason to even think about tanking. Maybe adding some pieces during All-Star break or trade deadline. I think that's definitely a thought. But other than that, just roll with the team you got.
We brought up Derek. I mean, we brought that up last week. That'd be someone you could do from a leadership standpoint, because it's all about leadership at this point in these games.
And that would bring so much energy to the city, to the team, and just a homegrown kid, played for the Bulls, was a franchise player, and then coming back to end his career there, I think would be a great story for him and the city and the Bulls too, just to do it out of respect.
Absolutely, and that's going to be a talking point for the next month, 2 months until the trade deadline. Once we find out what direction the Knicks are going to go at the deadline, I still think Derek is a piece that they could move. Just the way the situation is, you talked about that. The situation there, using him, the Bulls would use him the way that I think he could maximize what his skill set is now. But even beyond that, other targets that are out there once they start coming out, because we're starting to hear some names. The reason we brought up Derek is because Shams dropped some names last week. We're going to hear more as time goes on here, as teams start struggling. But the Bulls, I don't think you trade Vooch. I'm tired of the idea of, he hit a big three against Milwaukee. Actually, he hit a few, but he hit the dagger. So Vooch is proving. I think Vooch is still playing at a high level. I just wish they'd use more of his passing skills. Run the offense through him instead of forcing DeMar to get a shot, and maybe Zach sometimes forces shots. Work through Vooch, and when Vooch isn't out there, then you start relying on your guard play, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. You got to get the big man involved. He's way too good, especially when he's locked in. He's one of the best big men in the league. Just the way all the things he can do, pass, shoot the three, shoot the mid range. Defense is a question mark still, but that's my guy Vooch. He tries. But like I said, he's offensively capable of giving you 20 and 15 or more each night.
And this is the thing too. When we start talking about Vooch, I love doing this because you played with him. What he is like day in, day out, practice in, practice out, game in, game out. What he's capable of. And I think we're seeing it. I just want to see a little more. The 3-point shooting, okay. Yeah, the 3-point shooting is a problem with the whole roster. I'm not just going to blame Vooch for that. But I just think his passing skills are so vastly underrated. And I'm going to call out Billy Donovan. Not sure he's using Vooch as a passer as effectively as he can.
Right. Yeah, like you said, just try to run the offense through him, get him more touches on the elbow, on the mid post area, and then try to maybe run some handoffs with him and DeMar or Zach. So I think, like you said, just getting involved a little more in the offense so he can touch the ball, feel involved, and maybe he'll give you more effort on defense. That's always been a thing with me. If you get players who aren't really capable on defense, just give them the ball a little bit more. At least let them touch the ball, run the offense through them, and they'll give you a little more effort on defense.
Well, and here's the wild card too. We talk about the defense. Patrick Williams is the wild card on this team because he's playing better. I think he's looking better and better. Now, he's had his ups, he's had his downs, just like this entire roster has. I know people are really down on Patrick Williams, especially on offense, but he's showing that aggressiveness. He's got to maintain that level of aggressiveness if this team wants to get out of the cellar here. Out of the cellar. They're 8-11. They're, it's not disastrous. They're not. Let's do quick math. They're not 2-17. They're 8-11. It is still not even a quarter of the way through the season. I think Patrick Williams, if they can unlock his potential, whether that be, having him take more shots instead of DeMar, but at the same time, sometimes you're playing down, you need DeMar to take the shots. You've got to get the whole roster playing better. I think that will elevate Patrick Williams. And I think once it seems like it just needs to be unlocked. Something's got to click. And once it does, I think this is going to turn around.
I think so too. Did you see his quote in the paper?
I did not.
Oh, so not to quote him per word, but it was sort of like he thought he could be a good player in the NBA, but now he believes he can be a star or a superstar, which I think that's great confidence for him to be seeing that now. And especially in a young player, that's what you want. You want him to kind of learn the ropes the first couple of years. In that third or fourth year, you want him trying to elevate his game to the next level, which you thought he would be. So I think now that he gets it, hopefully we can see it in his play.
Let me say this. Last year, he's not saying that.
Right.
Last year, he's not going out there and say he doesn't get hurt last year. Let's say he plays that whole year. He's probably taking the leap that we're seeing now. But he lost last year, and Billy Donovan has made this point. He came in the middle of COVID. That was a weird year for anybody to come in. And you're even seeing, some of the rookies from back then, they were rookies then that are, third-year players now. They're doing well. But when you've got a project, because Patrick Williams is a project, that's not a knock. That's not a bad thing. He was a project, but the ceiling, to quote Michael Jordan, was the roof. His ceiling is unreal, and you've got to get him there. And to me, the way this roster makeup is, you've got DeMar, who's your number one shooter. He's your go-to. If you're playing down, which the Bulls have played down a lot this year, that doesn't help
Right.
Patrick Williams in any way.
Right.
You're going to rely on DeMar. You're going to rely on Zach. And then you need Patrick Williams on defense. And he had a sequence against Milwaukee. He blocked Giannis twice. It was awesome. I even tweeted, it was a great defensive sequence. That's the Patrick Williams I want to see, and that's going to be the difference this year.
Yeah, he's an X factor, like you said. And hopefully he can keep growing and get more experience and just learn from this NBA time and learn from Zach and learn from DeMar. Hopefully on the offensive end and bring that to his game.
So the big takeaway here from this entire last 10 minutes or so, it is not bad right now. The sky is not falling in Chicago.
Right.
Like everything is fine.
No.
The pieces are here. It's a matter of, is it on Billy Donovan? Is it maybe time? I still think we might need to start talking about lineup changes depending on what happens this week on the road trips. Like there's still ways to fix this thing, but tanking is not an option right now.
No, tanking's not an option. Let's just roll with the roster that the Bulls have, see it through, see it out to maybe beginning of January, and maybe you start to think about tanking then, but I say just roll with it. We got enough good players on this team to make the playoffs and make a run.
And one more note on this, and I'll shut up. Don't tank with a max player. You've got Zach LaVine. You paid him a max contract. Do not tank with a max player. I know there's talk of maybe trade him, whatever. No. You paid him the money. You're going to make it worth it. Don't even think about it.
Yeah, you invest in this player, just see it through. Don't waste your money.
Exactly. So now to wrap this thing up, because that was a really good discussion, we got to wrap up the show. We're entering December now because it is November 28th when we're recording this, November 29th. This will drop on Tuesday. It is crazy to think that we're like more than a month into the season. We're going into December. This is a big month for the Bulls and for the NBA. What do you want to see out of this team over the next 30 days?
From the Bulls, I would like to see just more consistency. If you get a couple wins, turn those 2 wins, turn them into 4. Let's not go 2-1 and then 1-2 and then 0-3. Let's just be consistent. Bring that energy every night, the effort every night. And I think if you do that, you have a chance to win every game. And that's all you really want at the end of the day. Just have a chance to win the game. And you have closers like Zach and DeMar and Booch who can close games for you. So hopefully just be in the hunt and then just take it over in crunch time.
Not going to be easy these next few games. At Utah tonight, Monday, old friend Lauri Markkanen, which I'm looking forward to seeing Patrick Williams on Lauri Markkanen. I think that's going to be a really fun matchup just because with the level Lauri's playing at, but what we saw in Chicago is completely different. But I think that's going to be fun. So they got at Utah Monday night before this podcast drops. Then they're at Phoenix on Wednesday. Then they're at Golden State on Friday. Then they're at Sacramento on Sunday. So these next 4 games, I could see 2-2. I could even see 3-1. Depending on what happens at Golden State. I think 3-1 would be a best case scenario. And I think that could maybe wake some people up, especially if they beat the Warriors.
Yeah, it's going to be big games. All those tough teams, especially on the road, on that West Coast trip is going to be tough. Like you said, we can come out 3-1. That'd be great for the Bulls. Just can't go like, 0-4 or 1-3. That's going to, give us a major setback, especially, going back home.
Absolutely. And it used to be called the circus trip, but the circus isn't there anymore. So I don't know. It's just the West Coast swing now. I don't know whether they have a nickname for this anymore. It used to be the circus trip. But
yeah, when I played, it was the circus trip too, but I don't know what it is now. They might have changed it.
they haven't had the circus there in a while. So it hasn't been the circus trip in years. But then, they come back. They got Washington, Dallas, Atlanta, New York twice, both at home. That's interesting. And then they got Minnesota, Miami. So like it's the schedule from there. There are games in there where it's going to be easier to see wins. But right now, I think 2-2 would be okay, good. Things are going well. 3-1 is the best case scenario because I don't think they beat Phoenix. I mean, I'll be very surprised. I will gladly tweet out this clip and be wrong. I don't think they beat
possible.
Phoenix. I don't think
Kevin
they beat
Garnett
Phoenix. Exactly. They could. It's the NBA. But that's the one I'm sitting here saying, okay, I don't think they're going to win that one. Prove me wrong. I will happily be wrong. Yes, but there's still time
to prove it wrong.
Please do. I'll admit I'm wrong when I'm happy to be wrong. That's how that works.
Right.
The tanking, the narrative and everything like that, we're going to quit with that, at least for now. The 1/4, 25% mark is Monday night. We'll see what happens over the next month or so. We're going to keep talking about that. But I think this team is in position to be in position. They just got to take that next step. And I don't have one problem to diagnose. Maybe it's on Billy Donovan. We're going to talk about it all later this week, though. But I still think they're in a good position.
Yeah, great position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you want to be.
Yeah,
not where you want to be, but
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be 8-11. Right. Right. I mean, you're in. I keep saying you're in position to be in position. It's just a matter of put yourself in position now, and they can do it.
Right.
I think Billy Donovan can maximize this roster. It just could be maybe some adjustments on his end, and I think he can do it. There's a reason.
Right.
I keep going back to it, and I hate to keep doing this to you. There's a reason he won back-to-back national titles at Florida. I keep going back to that. He's a proven winner. This is a guy who's going to make the adjustments and get this thing right. But we're going to recap this West Coast road trip, or at least the first part of it, later this week on Friday. We'll record again on Thursday. It's a wrap for today's episode of Believe in Bulls here on the Believe Network, presented by betonline.ag. Use that promo code, get that 50% bonus. It's a really good deal. Bet on football, basketball, hockey, World Cup, whatever you want to bet on over at BetOnline. They're great partners of the show. Also, shop.believe.com. If you want to do some Christmas shopping, you can support the show that way. CJ, looking forward to talking to you later this week, and hopefully the narrative is a little bit better around this team, because I don't like seeing the idea of, this team's not good, because I still think this is a good team.
Yeah, definitely a great team. Hopefully they can get a win, and then we'll see. Hope so. Let's go, Bulls.
Yeah, absolutely. Make some noise on this West Coast trip. This is where you need to make a statement, and hopefully they do. Yeah. We'll see you back here later this week.
Thank you for watching Believe. You can find more great content at Believe.com. That's BLEAV.com. Do you believe?